Welcome to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be having a look at BTC. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. Okay, so following up from yesterday's video, what we are still looking for is, the potential that this could start to break down, like we said in the previous video, until we actually break above this 30,350. The count is much cleaner to the downside, so we need to be very cautious of this. The fact that we also had a rejection in our white target box here is indicating that this could actually start to break down in a bigger way. Now, if we are looking at the current structure here, what I'm being mindful of is that we could be looking to break down in this bigger white third wave. Now, if this is the case, while 1.618 would actually be lower down yet, this 27,448. So we need to be careful of this. If we see this high over here of this 29,688 hold, we could potentially be looking for this break to the downside. Now, the current internals are suggesting that if we do break down from where we are, what we'd be looking for if this is going to become 1-2 would actually be a third wave down towards this 28,533, a fourth wave, and then a fifth wave, which could look to push us down into this zone here of this 28,465 to this 28,355. Now, the problem is moving down into that area, this would just give us an A, B, and a C. Now, this wouldn't really fit into this idea of this as a five-wave structure where we're looking at this as A, B, and C to the downside. What this could, however, be is still that this is a corrective move in the middle, and we actually just have this as WX, and this makes a Y wave. So we're going to have to be keeping an eye on that idea that even if we do just see a five-wave move down towards this 1-to-1, which is currently sitting here at this 28,314, effectively what we could see is this just being ABC to the downside, and then from there we'd have to see how we react to the upside here, because if we do start to develop five waves, that could actually indicate we're getting to a break to the upside. Now, given the current structure that we have here, it's possible that this wave 2 could already be completed if this is looking at this in this way where this is 1-2. Alternatively, if we do look to hold above this low here of this 29,084, what we could see is price could still look to push up one more time here. So the reason why I'm thinking this is quite likely is we do also have this naked point of control on the daily here towards this 29,457. So if we do see price look to push up to the upside here and actually look to push up towards this 0.786, which is sitting here at this 29,461, potentially this naked point of control could look to get tested before price looks to break down. However, if we do just hold this high here, it is also possible we could be starting to build this move to the downside. We have this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5 here. Then we form a wave 2, and then we start to break down in this way, looking for this lower target of this 28,533. So the key thing here is until we actually start breaking above this 29,567, we need to be careful that we could be looking to actually break down directly here. Now, there is another way of looking at this where we could be looking at this still being in a corrective structure, and we could still be looking at this white wave 2. We're going to go over that in a second. The key thing here is if we do start to extend out and we start to form something along these lines where this becomes 1-2, we get another 1-2 here, 3, 4, 5, 4, and 5, something like this. This could then align with the idea that because we haven't included this in the yellow count, this top piece here, what we could actually do is have a additional 1 and 2 nestled up here. So once we complete the yellow count, we'd still be looking for a fourth and a fifth. Now, if this moves us down towards 27,448, this could align with the idea of this becoming a bigger fourth and then a fifth wave. Now, the problem that we have with this is that if we do see a move down in this way, we get this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to the downside here. This would actually look to push us down into that area where we were saying that we've got this 1618 met up here in the white count. Now, this white count here, there's two ways we can kind of look at this move. We could also argue this is W, this is X, and then this is Y. So we could also just have our wave 2 into this point, the blue wave 2, in which case what we're looking for as a target is this 27,059. So if we do start to extend out to the downside here where this becomes 1, 2, we get 3, 4, and 5. This would align with actually coming into this 1618 here, which makes that bearish situation more likely, where then if we do get a move down towards this 27 and 59, we could see this additional fourth and fifth. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this for as long as we stay below this high here, which is sitting at this 30,417. As long as we stay below that zone, we could potentially look for this move to continue to break to the downside. Now, if we are looking at those internals again, what we could say here is that possibly this wave 2 could also be incomplete here. Now, if we're looking at the idea that this wave 2 is incomplete, what we could actually see is something along these lines, where we see price move to the upside in 3 waves. Now, we can also potentially count this as an expanding diagonal here, but the internals are not very neat, so I don't really like it, and it would be expanding, so the probability is already less with that fact, because expanding diagonals are less common than contracting ones. So if we were looking at this, then we would be looking for this as a potential B wave. Now, our typical B wave location's already been hit here at this 29,175 to this 29,037. If we start to lose 29,037, it starts to become more likely we're going to see a break to the downside. Now, one thing that I haven't ruled out here is that what we could be forming is a bigger A, B, and a C as a flat correction. So if we do look to move down into this 28,861 to this 28,551, this could actually align with this actually being W, X, and Y. So if we do either see a 5-wave move here, in which case this would become A, B, C, or alternatively we see this as W, we get an X wave, and then we see a 3-wave move down into this level. This could align with actually coming down into some of these lower zones here. So the 786 and the 854 would mean that we have just a slight break of the origin of this as an A wave. Alternatively, if we do look to push down between this 1236 to this 1382, this would align with actually coming into this 0.382, which is sitting at this 28,551, which is a very common area for a B wave. So just watching out for this idea that if this does look to extend out down here, what we could still see is 5 waves to the upside afterwards, making this a bigger corrective structure here, where this could then become A, B, and C, or alternatively 1, 2. Now, the problem that we would have here is that this would be starting to get very big if we do see an additional push down here and then a push to the upside. So we'd have to just be very careful in that instance, because that could actually mean that we have this as just another 1 and a 2 here, and then we're going to see that bigger breakdown, and that would probably be more likely then to be that impulse. If, however, we hold this low, because technically speaking, we've done enough for a corrective structure here. So what I'm on the lookout for here is whether price continues to set higher lows here. If we do continue to hold this low and set higher lows here, potentially we could be looking for a C wave to the upside, in which case our 1-to-1 would bring us up towards this 29,916. And then we also have this area here of this 854 to the 786, sitting between this 29,735 and this 29,792. Now that would bring us back up into these lows here, which would be an interesting area to look out for a reaction. If we do just see 3 waves to the upside here, then the idea is still going to be that we could see that continuation to the downside. Now, I just want to talk about the ideas we were talking about of that break to the upside yesterday. It is still possible that we could look at something like that. We were saying that this could be a series of 1s and 2s within here looking to break to the upside, but we actually came down and hit that invalidation point. So I'm actually going to remove this off the chart. And then we were saying that, you know, this could be potentially 1, 2 here, but we need to see price move up here. We failed to do that and invalidated, so that can come off the chart as well. Now, there is still potential here that we could see something along these lines, where what we could have is this as a wave 1 or an A wave as a diagonal, and then we would be looking for this as either a B or wave 2, and then a C, which would be looking for this 29,918. Alternatively, if we look for a bigger 5-wave structure that pushes us up to this 30,445, we could potentially have this as a 3rd wave. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this. I wouldn't really want to see us come down much lower here. Technically speaking, we could potentially still push down one more time and find support towards this 29,037 level. It just wouldn't make a lot of sense within the internals of this structure if we do see another push down like that, if we're looking for this as a wave 2 or B, unless this is going to get, this is actually A, this is B, and then we're looking for that flat. That would make more sense. So looking at the really short term here, if this is 1, 2, we don't want to lose this 29,131. Losing this zone already makes this a lot less likely that we're going to see this continuation. And what we'd want to say here is, you know, if we do lose this low, potentially we can find support a little bit lower here. But within this idea, ideally, I'd like to see this turn from this point. Confirmation that we could be looking for a C wave to the upside or a wave 1 looking to develop in a bigger move here would be a move up towards this 29,494. But what we need to see here is 5 waves to the upside, 3 waves back down, looking to find support here above this high, and then seeing an additional 5th wave to the upside, looking to play out towards this zone. If I just throw this fib on here, we'll just work out the 5th wave target here quickly, towards this zone of this 29,597 to this 29,527 level. So that would be looking at this possibility of seeing price looking to push up in another 5-wave move. That would be quite an interesting level because it would bring us back up into this high point here. So if we do see this actually develop as 5 waves here, what we'd have to then do if we want to look for continuation to the upside is then we'd have to see 3 waves to the downside and then see 5 waves back to the upside again. Until we actually get that come into play, effectively this can still look for that breakdown potential. So the reason I'm looking for this is because we were talking about it in the previous video. You know, there is still that potential. We could see something like this where we have this as a bigger A, B, and a C, and we're looking for a 5-wave move to the upside here, where we're looking for something along these lines: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, either up into this red target box here, which would be this 30,314 to this 29,966, or alternatively, if this is going to be a flat with the relationship to this B wave here, what we'd then be looking for is a move up between this 1-to-1 level to this 1.618 level, which what we'd be then be looking for is basically a move up above this A wave high here. And then we could actually look to come back and fill this bit of an imbalance that we have in this zone here. So this would be potentially very interesting here towards this 1382 and 1236, which is sitting towards this 30,790 to this 31k. And then up here we also have this higher level. Now, within the previous video, we were also talking about that potential, about looking for the possibility of a turn to the upside here, looking at this as a bigger A, this is an A, B, and a C, looking for that potential of a 5-wave move up here, which we would be looking to target out towards this 1-to-1, which would be this 31,000 area, and then the higher zone of this, so this is going to be expanding, would be between this 31,492 and this 32,338. So this is still on the cards here. We need to see how we react here. If we continue to hold this low here and continue to set higher lows, what I want to see then is the next section of this move having strong volume and getting very impulsive here. But like I said, within that idea of that break to the upside and that impulse, effectively we'd have to get a move above 30,445 given our current structure for that possibility of looking at this as a bigger impulse to the upside. Until we actually get that, my primary expectation is that we're going to still see some more downside here. Now, if we do continue to look to push to the downside, I just want to go over our higher time frame ideas here quickly. Effectively, within our bullish case, what we're looking for is support to come in between this 382 and the 786 lower down here, where we could see this move just being a bigger corrective structure. Now, if we are looking at this move slightly different, what we could also argue is that this is WX, and then we're looking for a Y wave. 1-to-1 would be down here at this 26,510, 0.618, which would be our minimum requirement, would be sitting up here towards the zone of this 28,519. If, however, what we look for here is that this could be a flat correction, A, B, and C, then what we'd actually be looking for is the potential that price could come down lower here towards this 25,360 to this 23,646. So this is why we need to be very careful here. If we continue to stay below these highs here, we could actually be setting out for a much bigger 5-wave structure where this is 1, 2, 1, 2, another 1, 2 here, and then we look to break down directly. The key zone that I'm looking for here, like I said, is that 27k region. If we start to break down past this 27k region, this would imply that we've got extension within the waves here, and then we'd be looking for that continuation down. Invalidation of this comes at this 30,417. So until we actually get back above this level, I am going to be focused more on this downside potential, but we can't rule out those ideas of seeing a bit of a squeeze here to the upside. So we're going to have to watch how we react to these highs. If we manage to break back above these highs here, then I would be looking at that idea of that flat as the next possible likely idea to play out. And then if we do start to move up towards these highs here, then the idea that we have this as A, this is a BC for a B, and then that C wave starts to become the most likely idea. Okay, so having a look at the daily CPR lines here, what we can see is that we actually printed lower CPR now. So we have confirmed this initially by having a move to the downside. Now, if we are looking for that continuation in a bigger 5-wave move, what I would expect to see here is I expect price to actually start to lose this previous daily low, which is sitting here at this 29,080 and this zone here of this 29k. If we do start to lose this level, potentially come back up, look for a retest, something like this could indicate that we could start to see price falling away in a bigger way. If however we fail to achieve this and we do look to push back to the upside, we could potentially still see resistance come in here towards this 29,258 and this 29,323. So that would align with that idea of seeing something like this as an ABC. If, however, we start to break back above these levels, what I'd be looking at as potential targets for today would be 29,500 area, and we do have the previous daily high sitting up here towards this 29,567. So going to be keeping an eye on those two levels within this smaller range here. If we do see price look to roll over here and start to lose this S1 line here, other targets for today is this 28,809. We have this 28,532 and this 28,322 to the downside. If we do see price looking to push to the upside here, if we do manage to break above this previous daily high and this R1 line, what we could then see is price be gravitated towards some of these higher levels here. We have 29,775, we have this 29,980 and this 30,255 as potential upside targets for today. Now, having a look at the weekly here, what we can see is that we have actually retested the R2 line here again, and we have temporarily found support here. So if we do continue to move to the downside here, I'm going to be keeping an eye on this line once again towards this 29,100 level. If we do continue to hold this, potentially we could see price look to move away from this area. If we do move to the upside here, what I would be on the lookout for is potential resistance coming in at this zone of this 29,594 if we do see price move up here. If, however, we see price start to fall away here, potentially we could look to find support or at least get a reaction towards this 28,686. This is the bottom target for this week. Now, price can always move through these zones, so if we are looking at selling an impulse, we could see price still blast through this level, so we need to just be aware of that. If we do look to move up above these highs, then potentially we could still find resistance here between this 30k and this 29,952, and that would align more with the idea that this is a bigger corrective structure and we're going to see something like this. So if we do see a move up here, I'm going to be keeping an eye on these levels as possible resistance, as well as that if we do manage to break back above these targets for this week is this 30,509, we have this 30,907, 31,400 as upside targets for this week. Now, as for the monthly CPR lines here, what we can see is that we're still currently sitting between the central pivot line and this top pivot line here. Now, if we do see price look to come back to the downside here, we could still potentially find support here at this 28,900. If we do hold this zone, then potentially we could see some kind of a reaction to the upside here. If, however, we lose this zone, then the next likely thing actually becomes that possibility of moving down towards this 28,110 as a possible target for this month to the downside here. Now, if we lose that zone, we do still have this 26,367 as potential downside targets. If, however, we do manage to move back above here and flip this area into support, this 29,684, potentially to the upside, we have an open target here of this 32,996 as a potential target for this month. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video, and leave us some feedback down below. Also in the description, you'll find a link to the Discord. Come check it out. It's free to join. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.